So I read that Zemeckis originally offered Sidney Poitier to be the president, which is just like such an obvious
To be
choice.
like a fake president or to like play Bill Clinton?
Well, a lot of people considered Bill Clinton the first black president. So, but no, yeah. So they,
As it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, wait, Sidney Poitier is black. Never mind.
yeah, there we go.
I finally
Watched.
I finally
Watched. I
finally
watched. I
finally
watched.
I finally
Watched.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of I Finally Watched. I'm Milan.
And this is David. And today we finally watched Contact.
I have been wanting to do this movie for so long, and I think I pushed for the like the sci-fi month solely so we could just fit this in it.
I thought we did it because we're doing Alien 3.
Second best reason.
I was tricked.
I don't know. There's so much behind this movie that I've just seen like on TikTok and reels and clips all over the place, and I'm just like, this looks like either the most interesting movie or like it could be like one of the most poorly executed movies.
Which was it?
I think it was really good. I really enjoyed it. What worried me was like the time that it was made. I was hoping that I was like, oh, please don't be bad. Like, please don't be overly ambitious.
Don't be ambitious. I think it was pretty ambitious. So just to get into it, I enjoyed it. I did feel like the direction of the movie, not the director, but like kind of the story and like the way the story was told and all that. I was like, it's just an odd choice that I didn't like as much, but I still
Okay.
liked the movie overall.
Okay.
I mean, just in the end, ending with like a hearing where they're like wanting her to admit that she's lying about like what she saw. And she's like, I just can't do it.
Well, it's her arc, right? It's like the whole thing leading up to it is like Matthew McConaughey's character was like trying to push her in faith, and she's like, no, I'm like the most anti-religious person you could ever meet. And then like at the end of it, she's like, oh, I get it now. Like I get faith and belief, and I get the 95% of the population why they're so keen on the whole religion thing.
Yeah, I just meant like the way in which it ended. Like to me, an anticlimactic way of ending it, where you have this cool bit of her going to Pensacola apparently and meeting her dad again. To come back and then just have like this one scene where James Woods is like, "You're a liar,"
Yeah.
for no reason. But then afterwards to be like, I mean, I don't want to get too far into it because I just want to talk about it at the end. Because actually, parts of the ending I like, and like I said, I like the movie overall. It's just like a weird direction, and it's a little too long. Like
Okay.
it needed some more editing, I think. But overall, like I liked it.
I called you a little bit before, earlier today before we sat down and did this, and I was like, hey, I know you didn't finish the movie, but whatever way this is like you think the movie is gonna end, you're wrong. And for me, I was like, oh, I know how the movie is gonna end, about like halfway, maybe a little bit more in the film. When they were like, oh, this is the transporter, like this is the design for a transporter, I was like, oh, I know how this movie's gonna end, and I was wrong. Would you like to hear how I thought it was gonna end?
I'm like actually pretty excited to hear this.
So I thought that she, by plot, was going to be the one who has to go, which she was. And then when she gets there, like the whole beginning was like, when she was little, can I reach mom through my satellites? And then the dad's like, there's no satellite big enough. And I was like, is this like a thing, like a metaphor for heaven or whatever? And I was like, what would be funny, or not funny, but what would be interesting would be if she got transported and met her mom and dad, but like really, not like aliens trying to pretend to be her because of her mind or whatever, but like really met her and was like, okay, I believe in like an afterlife. I believe in a higher power. And then she was sent back to be like, I get it now. Which it's funny because it gets there, but like your complaint about it being too long, so many things has to happen for that her to be like, I get it now. And I'm just thinking in my head, she's gonna meet them, be like, ah, I believe, and then be sent back. So that's how I thought it was gonna end.
I just felt like so much of like the beginning before she makes it to New Mexico could have been like truncated, shortened. Like I felt like we could have gotten there quicker.
Okay.
Um, and like I said when I talked to you before we started, I was like, I just don't care about the little kid part of it. Obviously, I know it's going to tie in, and it did because we have to know about her father, and we have to know about the beach in Pensacola.
Yep.
And there's also this. I think there are some like kind of unanswered questions here too. Like Haddon, who's played by John Hurt, was he controlling her life this entire time? Was he an alien? I feel like he was an alien.
Yeah, I it was kind of crazy at the end how they're just like, oh, it was a giant hoax by Haddon. I mean, it wasn't, right? But it's funny how it kind of was like it was hinted at that, and then she was like, "Holy shit, was it?" Like that's crazy enough to like it actually might be.
Well, because Haddon has this one line where he's like, "Your father was told to focus you on science and like exploration." It's like who? I guess maybe teachers is like the normal explanation, but it was like, was it him? Because he just has all these home videos. It's like, where did he get these?
And he has the resources and the money to pretty much do that, but then what's the guarantee of like is it because he basically fostered her into never giving up? So he's like, if I can foster someone of like pretty good intellect to never give up, then eventually I found it. Questions if he did that to her, how many kids out there he has like the same thing.
He didn't know which one was gonna work, so he just like put his
He's like Charles Xavier with the X-Men, but instead of like recruiting them and they have powers, he just like has them remotely everywhere.
he just wanted to get back home. Um, I think we should just start from the top. So it starts with a young Jenna Malone, who I was like, all right, how is this going to connect? I didn't realize it was supposed to be Jodie Foster.
I
Uh,
thought they did a good job. I thought that was a convincing young old actor playing each other.
well, except I knew who it was, so it's like she doesn't grow up to look like Jodie Foster for me. So like, I
Let
mean,
me tell you something about Jenna Malone is that she's for me, she's an actress that I thought would have become way more famous because I think she's really talented. I just don't see her much of in anything anymore.
I think she went a more like independent route. By the way, when you said that, and like people can't see your face, but I thought you were going to be like, I want to bone Jenna Malone is what you were going to say. Like the way you said it was very, I had no idea which way you were going to go.
I meant to say it in a way that could scare you. Yes.
Oh, got you. So it starts with her, and she's on what, like a ham radio or
Yeah.
what? Okay, yeah, and she's talking to some dude, a random gentleman in Pensacola.
Who her dad is like, you got to talk to more random people all the time, honey.
Yeah, what's funny is I thought she was going to be the one to make contact because the dad's like, "That's the farthest you've reached out." I thought Jenna Malone was going to somehow start this whole thing where she contacted aliens, but it actually turns out it was Hitler who did it. So,
Which is so interesting how they went that route.
dude, yeah, they like today you could not make that like the major plot. It was like funny how they brought it back, but like when they first showed the picture, I was like, "Is that a fucking swastika?"
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, "It's probably not," and it was like, "Oh no, it
And then
is."
it is. Yeah, because it's it's like a inverse, like a negative look at a swastika. And Taylor and I had the same thought. We looked at each other and we're like, that looks like a fucking swastika. And then it was. We just flip shit.
Yeah. So I think now we just jump to Puerto Rico that satellite, I can't find anything that confirms this, but I'm like 99% sure. Also, I didn't do a whole lot of work
Mhm.
to figure it out, but that's the satellite from Goldeneye.
I think that's also, and now I've done also no research in knowing this, but I think that's also the satellite in that one episode of X-Files.
I mean, probably. Who's gonna doubt you?
Who
Uh,
is gonna challenge us?
you know what? The other thing they don't really explore is like there's this sort of like Tom Skerritt, who plays David Drumlin, is sort of like a father figure for her.
Kind of.
And I thought there was going to be some mention of like in a 2.5 hour movie, you would have time to like, why does he act like her dad?
I am your father.
But he also is like, without like committing major crimes, is just like one of the scummiest people in a movie.
I've never seen a more like Bond villain-esque character.
But just in a normal role, he never kills anybody. He never does anything really bad. But he's
Right.
just a bad person.
Right.
Like in this, like every move he makes is to just fuck over our protagonist. There's not a redeeming quality about him, except that he dies.
Well, no, but he helps her get to where she wants to get to.
Not purposely.
No, like he builds the other thing.
What other thing?
The other transport.
The one in Japan?
Yeah.
That's Haddon, not Drumlin.
Oh, I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah, Drumlin's the dude who like.
Oh, Drumlin is the fucking asshole. Him. Oh, I
Yeah.
fucking hate him.
But that's what I'm saying. Like
Oh.
for someone who doesn't, he's such an evil character for someone who doesn't really do anything like illegal or bad, really.
Such a scumbag. Yeah, I sorry. I got mixed up on the characters on what
I was
you were
like, "Where
talking
are
about.
you? I need you to have my back on this."
Yeah.
And you're not there for me.
I agree with you. It's just like when he dies, I got up and cheered.
Well, that's not good.
I was just like, I'm so glad that douchebag's
A
dead.
lot of other people died with him.
Yeah, including
day.
the other douchebag of the movie.
Who? Oh, well,
The
he was
religious guy.
Yeah, Gary Busey's son. I mean, he was intending on killing himself, so he
That's
kind of
his son.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I keep thinking it's his brother.
No.
Can I talk to you about candy sausage?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Sure.
Oh no, you don't get that joke. You haven't seen that Gary Busey clip going around the internet where he looks absolutely like Solomon Grundy.
No, I haven't.
No, okay, I'll send it to you later.
I mean, you could tell me Gary Busey looks like anything right now. Yeah, but Jake Busey. Also, we're gonna get into it later. But why is Rob Lowe doing a Southern accent in this?
How is Rob Lowe even in this for 2 seconds?
I bet you it's because they're filming it like they're probably just filming at the same place that West Wing is. So they're just like, all right, we'll just keep him. Although I don't even know timing if that makes sense, but we'll just keep him over here.
He had kind of a controversy back in the 90s where he was put out, right? Like he wasn't allowed to act. Maybe this was like slowly bringing him back into the fold.
I don't remember that. My Rob Lowe knowledge is probably not up to yours standards. I also for a while thought Angela Bassett was the president. And then
she should have been, dude.
And then Clinton steps up. Yeah, Angela Bassett's fucking great in this.
We need to talk about Clinton.
So I read that Zemeckis originally offered Sidney Poitier to be the president, which is just like such an obvious choice.
To be like a fake president or to like play Bill Clinton?
Well, a lot of people considered Bill Clinton the first black president. So, but no, yeah. So
as it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, wait, Sidney Poitier is black. Never mind.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. So, but he turned down the role to be in The Jackal, which is funny because Matthew McConaughey dropped out of the lead role in The Jackal, which I think went to Richard Gere, if that's considered the lead role, probably, in order to be in this movie.
Isn't Richard Gere quite a bit older than McConaughey?
I'd say so, yeah, probably. But I don't know. I think not enough for it to matter in that instance.
That's interesting because I learned during this film that McConaughey was 29 years old during this.
Also, the hair, man, like coming off of A Time to Kill, and I don't know what you were doing with the hair in this. It was like an in between. It wasn't short,
yeah,
and he didn't let it get long enough.
I think it got better when he was like appointed counsel to the president. Like he had to get it cut and like
It started
brushed.
out, it looked like, you know how like women when they get a little bit older, they have to cut their hair shorter and shorter. Like that's what it looked like. He was in that like late 30s, early 40s stage where he's like, oh, just like small to medium hair that he had going. I didn't. I mean, he's a good looking man, so he doesn't need me to tell him. And then also William Fitchner, who plays Kent Clark, who plays a blind man who at first like did not realize what he was doing there. I was like, why is he acting like that?
Yeah, I thought maybe he was playing autistic, but he wasn't. He was blind.
Yeah, well, no, I think he's playing blind, and just like they were playing up the like other heightened senses thing that blind people.
That, and also, I mean, he's like, he works in the same department as Jodie Foster and everyone else, so he's like a bit of a nerd. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing was going in a. I mean, it was an interesting character. Also, can we talk also about how these characters, except for maybe Jodie Foster's character, their names felt reversed? Like you had Kent Clark, and then you had Palmer Joss, which Joss Palmer sounds like a much better name.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Well, Josh doesn't sound like anything. It's not a real thing, but yeah, I agree.
Joss Whedon.
Yeah, it's not a real person.
Okay.
So, but no, I agree with you. So Jodie Foster comes to the satellite, and she just right out and says, "Yeah, I'm looking for little green men." And the next day, Matthew McConaughey starts chatting her up, and he like knows everything about what she does, and he's like he wants to interview her boss, who like she seems to still have. That's what's also weird. She has this affection for him, even though like in the beginning, at least, even though he's like constantly like belittling what she does. And then like
McConaughey or her boss?
her boss belittles what she does.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're wasting your time. And then he cuts the funding because he's like, you're wasting your career. I have to stop you. And it's like, why? Why are you? It'd be one thing if you're just like, it's a waste of taxpayer money. But to be like, I'm doing this for your benefit is just, it's this weird like patriarchal thing that I don't understand their relationship.
That, and also like, what did McConaughey want with him? He wanted to interview him, and then he like fucking like disses him the first time they meet, and he's like, "You think that
Well,
blows my interview?" And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy,
well, and they knew each other too, right? Because he's like, oh, Pastor Joss.
preacher man."
Yeah. And then this is funny too. So obviously they bang, and
because they bang because Matthew McConaughey gives a line spoken by her father earlier in the movie.
it was that, but then also I was like, why did she immediately just want to fuck him? Because it was like the movie was like the way she looked at him after, and there was also a line where he like basically like said he had given up religion, sort of.
Not religion. He couldn't do the whole celibate thing.
That's right. Oh, right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So the celibate thing, he's like, I can't do it. So then she bangs him, but then she just immediately is like, yeah, you can leave me your number. I'll call you, and yeah, just hang out. And she's like, do you want to go to dinner? No. He's like, oh, well, no. At first, he's like, hey, we'll do this like hike later. And she's like, nah, I can't do that. And she's like, well, what about dinner? And she's like, I don't think so.
So, and then immediately it was like a flashback to her dad. So I think it was like attachment issues and daddy issues for her. Like, I think that's what the movie was trying to say.
Well, because he also said something about her father, and that made her leave.
He grabbed a photo off of her like headboard. Her headboard was like a bookshelf, and she has a photo of her father there. He grabs it. He's like, "Is this your dad?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm sorry, I assume they banged on the bed. Just gonna like have a photo of your dad staring at you while you bang.
You know what I was also thinking of? I'll just get to it now. And I mean, it eliminates it a little bit because it was actually just an alien looking at her. But when they're at the end and the alien dad is like, you have your mother's hands. I was like, that's like a borderline, like, what body part can you comment on? That's like, oh, you have your like you have your mother's
eyes,
ass.
Dude. It's
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So if you're like, you have your mother's eyes, it's like, all right, that's not creepy. But if you're like, you have your mother's lips, it's like, that's weird. Your mother's hands is like a borderline weird thing to say.
Yeah, but how does the alien know she has her mother's hands?
Well, they've been watching, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe it's just maybe the alien's just like it's just that actually is kind of an explanation. It's just like they've taken in so much of like our media and they're like, say she has her mother's hands.
I love that. I love that. I'm keeping that.
What are you gonna do with it?
Like I'm keeping that as canon. Like that is what happened.
Oh, okay, got you. So then he cuts her funding, and so she and William Fitchner have to go find funding. And she, I guess, we're supposed to know that she went to a bunch of investors, and then she goes to her last one, and they say no. So then she screams at everybody, and apparently that's why he decides to give her money.
I kind of love it too because his company is called Magellan. It's a great name.
But also in retrospect, I don't know why she had to scream at them because he had been following
Watching?
her. Yeah, or
Mhm.
maybe he did all that research after. I don't understand. Like why her screaming. In retrospect, it doesn't make sense that her screaming is he's like, all right, give her the money. She's passionate.
I mean, when a woman throws a fit, you have to give in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that at all. That's a joke. I'm sorry.
The views of Alon do not represent. So then she gets to New Mexico, and this is where the movie like really kind of starts for me. It was kind of like you said earlier, you couldn't guess what was going to happen in the movie.
Right.
And that first like 30 minutes, I had no clue where this was going to go. I obviously remembered like the cover of the movie where she is with all those satellites in New Mexico.
Of
I didn't know it
course.
was in New Mexico at the time. But like when she gets to that point, it was like, all right, now here we go. And it was kind of a little bit more predictable at that point. Like we've kind of seen like with Independence Day, like the thing cut the beeps coming in and they're like, oh, what does this mean?
So I could see the movie going there quite early on because I was like, they have to make contact with aliens, right? Where I was like, what the fuck is this movie? Was when the terrorist guy, Jake Busey, blew up the transporter and killed Drumlin and everyone and like the fucking shrapnel goes everywhere, which is super cool. Super cool. Very well done for 1997. So it's like being thrown everywhere. Project's dead in the water, and then she gets like private jetted up into the air, and he like meets her, and he's like, "I'm bestowing all this knowledge upon you, and I'm going to fund you, and I'm going to pull you out of this thing." I'm like, this is like all of a sudden a spy espionage movie.
Well, you've mixed up parts of the movie, which is not uncommon for you. But he brings her on the jet when when he shows her how to decipher the thing.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He talks to her in her hotel room from a Russian space station or possibly the International Space Station, and then shows her that they just decided to build a second one in Japan, and that they still want an American to do it.
That's right. Because he's in fucking outer space at that time.
I was also like, why did they shave John Hurt's head, and then you find out he's like has cancer, like when he dies at the end of the movie.
So insensitive.
The movie?
No, you.
Why?
No, I'm kidding.
Because I didn't know. It's also so she's in New Mexico, and then they're like, everyone's against us, and we only have 3 months left. And then the next day, she hears the noise. Maybe even that night, she's like hears the noise, and she's like, "This is everything." And then she goes to the White House, and like they think, oh, she's going to like be the one to talk to the world, and then Drumlin just basically steps in and like starts stealing her thunder, and is like, you also have fucking James Woods playing an asshole, and now like he just sort of does that in real life, but like it's the part he's born for.
I have to digest everything you said because he also plays one of the most famous Disney villains to ever be.
Hades? You think Hades is? I don't want to rank Disney villains right now, but I don't know that he's top 5.
Top 10.
Possibly.
Okay, fine. but I mean, yeah. So, and he plays a great. When he's talking, I'm just listening. I'm just hearing Hades,
No,
and
the voice is very distinct and good, and it's very assholish. I love when they see the Hitler video, and he just goes, "Okay," like calls the army people back in.
yeah, yeah. How he dismissed them just a few minutes earlier, and he's like, "Troops, men, come here."
Also, I was thinking too. So the scene where she hears the noise and is calling into the guys at the base and is like, I need you to do this and do this, do this, do this. It kind of reminded me of Apollo 13 that we just did, where it's like I'm understanding nothing that's being said, but it's all very interesting and climactic, and like I'm like, oh, this is cool.
I like
And
how she's talking to them through the radio just to be like in the room. Like we don't know because the way the shot is framed up, we don't know if she's in the room with them. But then she's like talking on the radio, and she turns and then puts down the radio, and then she continues with her instructions.
No, yeah, exactly. And then like the sound stops, and you're like, oh shit. And I was like, but were they not recording this? Do we not know what it is? Like, what? Why does it matter that it stopped and then it starts up again?
I would think it would be a really good thing that it stopped, right? Because if it stopped, that means something stopped it. And if it just kept going, maybe it was just a phenomenon that was like picked up.
Yeah, but I think the point also is that like in order for them to send this, it has to travel so long. So they may have sent it, maybe they didn't know how the Hitler thing turned out. So they sent it. And then like 3 years
Right.
later, they get World War II footage and like, oh fuck.
Oh shit, we gotta get
Sorry.
that footage back.
We didn't realize. Like
It was-
you guys sent it to us.
when they decipher the static and it's the swastika, before that, when they were like counting the beeps and it was prime numbers, I even got excited. I was like, oh shit, it's prime numbers, which means that it's like it's on purpose. It's like an on purpose pattern,
Yeah.
If it was even numbers or odd numbers or some shit like that, it could have been like still a coincidence.
No, yeah, I agree. So we talked about Clinton being in this, and then Drumlin and Woods are for some reason like teaming up together as team men to be like, oh, Drumlin's going to take over. And then I was really happy when Angela Bassett, who I don't know what her job is, but it seems like she's pretty high up in the White House.
Secretary of Defense.
And I just like how she just lays it out on the table and is like, nah, she's still going to be involved because this was her discovery. Also, like James Woods, like, we have to think about American lives, if these people are trying to blow us up. And I was like, that's like such a movie thing to be like the evil senator is like only thinking about American lives instead of just like, oh, this could kill the world. Like the other lives matter too. I just thought it's like a nice little thing they put in there. And then she goes to meet Hurt, who never lands his plane, I guess. And we find out later when he's on the space station, he thinks that the zero gravity and the no atmosphere like prolong his cancer, like make it so he'll survive longer.
Right. And there's a line that he gives while he's on the plane to her. It says something along the lines of people wish, like my enemies wish I will leave this earth and soon they will get their wish. But it's funny because the next time he's in space, so they got their wish, but he's just not dead.
You also think that maybe they did the cancer, he's bald thing to create like a Lex Luthor vibe?
Jodie Foster is Superman? Oh no, but there's Ken Clark. Oof.
I mean, I don't think he's Superman.
And instead of being Superman, he's blind.
Now, Matthew McConaughey is Superman.
That would have been
just a laid back Superman. It's like darling, I'll stop that. I'll stop that crime over there. Don't you worry.
He's just in outer space as like a asteroid is heading to Earth, and he's like,
Also, what did you think? I'm going to cut you off. What did you think about William Hurt? Like, I thought it was a really cool moment when they couldn't get the pages of the code to work, and then he's like, "It's a cube," like, and then shows it on the thing.
Okay. I'll tell you something really funny about that scene. And my experience watching it is, I watched it with subtitles. Did you watch it with subtitles?
I usually do. I don't remember if that part had it.
So I watched it with subtitles, and it goes, "You have to think like a vegan," but it was spelled like a vegan,
Yes, that
right?
did happen to me too. I was like, what the fuck does he mean?
Me too. And it took me way too long into the movie. Like when they built the transporter and they're like, we're going to contact the vegans. And I was like, why? What the fuck? I was like, oh shit, the vegans, because it's Vega. You
This
stupid fuck.
This anti-meat bullshit propaganda.
You have to think like them to know how to fold a piece of paper.
So then with this information, she goes to debrief the White House, but then Drumlin like sort of takes over again. You're like, this fucking asshole. And then Woods is also an asshole. And then I mentioned Rob Lowe's Southern accent that he has going for no reason. And it's not what I would call good.
Well,
I also like,
he's also an asshole.
you know what I also liked about this movie? And this is a thing. Larry King loved to be the news guy in movies during the 90s.
Oh, God.
Anytime you wanted Larry King to do your movie, Larry King would do your fucking movie. Like, I'm pretty sure he did Ed TV with Matthew McConaughey. And that's below his station, but he's like, no, I'll do that too. He did it all. If you called Larry was going to be in your movie.
Nowadays, I feel like it's Anderson Cooper.
Well, Wolf Blitzer will pretty much take any paycheck too.
Yeah. That's true. Wolf will, and Anderson Cooper. And then sometimes, what's her name? Greta
Van Susteren?
Van Susteren? That's her name?
I don't know, man.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. No. Greta Van Susteren. I think that's her name.
Don Lemon's looking for stuff to do. He'd probably do it. So then we get to a party and she's like, I need a really nice dress. And I'm like, what a bitch. You could have had him back then. What are you doing? Like, what is this? This is your, I guess you said it was daddy issues earlier. And then she's talking with Matthew McConaughey about God. And she's like, Occam's razor, which gets used against her later. And then he's basically just like, well, I wouldn't want to live in a world without God. And that was like, I don't know, it kept having this back and forth with that. But I was like, it kind of felt like the movie was not saying as much about that. Or, I mean, I guess there was the arc, but I don't know. I think that part could have been done a little better, I guess, is my overall.
I think one of the more interesting points of that conversation was when he asked her if she loved her father. She goes, yeah, of course. And he goes, prove it.
Yeah.
He goes, and what she should have said is, we banged with a picture of him over your head. And that should have been proof enough.
Yeah. And then they decide that they're going to build the machine. And Drumlin comes out and he's just like, I just want to let you know, da-da-da. And she's like, oh, he's going to be on the fucking committee to decide. He's like, no, he resigned because he wants to go. And we're like, this fucking asshole didn't even believe in aliens. And now he's like, I should go talk to the aliens.
Can I ask you how at 29 Matthew McConaughey got onto like the board of the presidents to decide to like be one of the deciding votes of this factor?
I mean, he was an author. I think they do a little news bit about his rise to become like the presidential advisor on like religion and stuff. Because he just became like a guy who like talked and people listened. And so then he kind of, Clinton brought him in. I don't know what Rob Lowe was doing there because Rob Lowe was clearly playing a conservative figure. And this was the Clinton presidency. Although I guess back then, I don't know, people could cross over a little bit better than now.
It wasn't such a defining line. But the thing too is like, oh, did we ever talk about exactly like Clinton was in this for sure? Like he said those lines in front of a green screen and they put
No. So he was talking about like a Mars rover. And so Zemeckis, I should have finished that part earlier. He was talking about a Mars rover. So after Sidney Poitier declined, Zemeckis was like, fuck, I can just use this footage. This would be great. And so you can kind of tell, like, especially like the last time we see Clinton in this movie, like it's just gibberish. Like it like barely connects to the movie. It's just like, they just cut it in.
I didn't know if you like filmed it at the White House and they just sent the Post guys the footage and they cut it in with him because he interacts with William Hurt. But then again, it could have just been fucking.
You mean William Hurt? When does he interact with Hurt?
Isn't Drumlin played by Hurt?
No. Hurt plays Haddon.
Oh, he's unrecognizable in that role. Wow.
Yes, Tom Skerritt plays Drumlin.
Okay, so doesn't he interact with Drumlin?
He's cut in. It's like green screen type
Yeah,
stuff.
but he says something to him. I mean, it could have been voiced over by like someone who, yeah, there could have been a million ways. But Bill Clinton did not like audition for this film.
I think he had other stuff going on at the time. No, yeah. They just I think grabbed some of the stuff. I don't know. I didn't
Since
find anything
we're
that said he did.
since we're talking about the cool things that the editing team has done, I have to say that one of the things that put this movie on my radar, pun intended, is that one shot with Jenna Malone running up the stairs into the medicine cabinet, and it's this like one of the coolest shots in cinema, and because you don't know how the camera ends up in the reverse shot of the medicine cabinet opening and closing, but you do.
Yeah, I looked it up because you were like really thought it was really cool, and you're like, didn't you notice it? And I was like, I don't remember that much.
Because
I don't remember. Probably. The long shot of Ellie as a child running up the stairs to get medicine was filmed as a normal shot would have been, then flipped and placed in the mirror, which at the time of shooting was a blue screen placement in the cabinet.
Holy shit! Oh wow, well that's cool.
And there you go.
It's less impressive when you break it down like that, but and when you're reading it too, you come off as like, did you know that Burger King foot lettuce is
Foot lettuce? What the fuck does that even mean?
I'm so into the meme world and you're not, I'm sorry.
Oh, really? Okay. By the way, also Greg Gumbel, Brian Gumbel? Whichever of the Gumbles wears glasses.
Yeah.
He also will do your movies all the time. And he has this back and forth with her when she's trying to be with the candidate to go into space. And you know, how do you know these aliens are so smart? And she's like, well, you have to have a little, and he's like, faith? Like it's like a gotcha moment.
It's almost like someone who
in anything.
it's almost like who's someone who doesn't believe in God, and they're like, you can't ever believe in anything, and you can't have faith in anything ever.
Right? No, exactly. Yeah.
And if you do, well, then you obviously believe in God. You fucking liar.
Do you think the sun's gonna come up tomorrow, asshole? There's also then just
do you love your father? How much do you love your father?
So then Matthew McConaughey leaves her like a note to meet her. She goes and meets him, and then they like just start heavily making out in the park. And I was like, is she gonna get caught? And that's how she's gonna get kicked off, because there's gonna be some sort of like, oh, you were fucking some dude on the committee, so you shouldn't go. But instead, you can tell Matthew does not want her to go, Palmer Joss.
Yeah.
And so the next day he asks her if she's believes in God. And then they were like 95% of people in the world believe in a God and a higher power. I was like, that seems high.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe we're not. We're thinking of just white people. So
maybe. Also, like, she is in a group of other candidates to go in this thing with, what is it? 2 other Americans.
Well, one backed out. Yeah, and one backed out.
And one backed out. And then is she the only woman, or was there another woman?
I don't remember.
Was the only woman.
I mean, I knew it was going to be her, Tom Skerritt, so I did not track
right.
the rest of the people.
But my question to you is, if this movie was made nowadays, how many women do you think would be in this team?
It would still be just her, because it'd be a comment on the patriarchy and how women, don't get chosen for things like that.
Oh, okay. Well, if it was, then I think it would be like no competition that she would get chosen.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of statement you're making on wokeism. So Matthew then comes to her hotel and is like, I couldn't pick someone who doesn't believe in God. And it's like, you couldn't pick someone, but you'll fuck her. Like, you draw the line in different places.
Well,
and then
but then it's revealed that he loves her, and that's why he didn't do it. But that was obvious from the get-go.
Yeah. And then she's like, I told you the truth. Drumlin told you what you wanted to hear. Because then Drumlin's like mentions God in his speech, and then he mentions God
times.
He mentions God every time he does an interview after that. And then she hands him the compass that I guess she's kept this entire time, and it's like, I've always loved you. even though I just wouldn't call you because of my issues.
Yeah.
And then we get to the bomb by Jake Busey, and that's just a fucking crazy scene out of nowhere.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And what's even like nuttier about it is like this whole scene reminds me of the movie we just watched, Apollo 13, where they're in the command post and they're talking them through, and it's a test, right? It's a test with Elmer, the dummy. And Drumlin is up there and he's like, wow, can you feel these vibrations? These are crazy. And then no one else could feel these vibrations. And I was like, oh, is that something? And then it blows up and they never mention that again. I guess that wasn't anything.
Well, no, it wasn't, because all the people started making fun of him. They're like, oh, look at him hamming it up for the cameras, like trying to get his 10 minutes of fame. They grab Busey and they have him, but then they let him get his hand loose to blow it up. Dude, your life is on the line. You do not let that guy get his hand on the fucking thing, man.
First of all, I've seen enough movies to know that that's a dead man trigger. And
It wasn't. His hand was off of it. He had to press it.
oh, I thought he had to press it and let go. I thought
No.
that was the thing.
Well, either way, they had his hand off of it and then he presses it.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
life is on the line. And then after that, the guy in the NASA, like in the control room, was like, all right, everybody, get back. We got to act like professionals. Is like, dude, you just saw a terrorist attack. You almost hit, like, the blow almost got you guys in there. Like, I don't know. I'm going to take a few minutes. I might even leave for the day. That's like, that might be
Take a day.
that's like a wrap on my day. I'm not going to act professionally.
Oh, can I ask you something? How many people do you think died in that explosion?
I mean, at least 20.
Apparently it was a dozen.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, that seems low.
That seems low, right? Because he was like,
There was shrapnel thrown at the crowd. I get all those people escaped unscathed.
Just the camera work when it was like showing them how many people were in there. It just looked way more than that. And then what's funny too is like someone was yelling at Ellie, Jodie Foster, and was like, billions of dollars was spent on this, and a dozen people died. And I was like, oh well, if you put it like that, it's not really like a huge loss.
The order of priority. And then she gets a phone call from a Russian cosmonaut, and Deus Ex Machina, we built a second one. So the movie
Dude,
keeps going.
That reveal, I have to say, it was cool. That reveal where it pans to his ship, his spaceship window, and then you could see it from the thing. I was like, all right.
It was cool. It was very cool. I thought they were just gonna start building a new one. I don't, so like
The
way
movie
they-
has no time. This is already a 2.5 hour run.
Well, yeah, but they skip through a lot of things. Like there's a lot of time jumps in this movie that you don't really notice.
When he gave her the funding to like continue this, and now she's in New Mexico with the satellites, and the 4 years later thing pops up, I was like, wow.
Was that in the beginning?
No, that was when she goes to New Mexico.
Yeah, in the beginning part of New Mexico.
I guess the beginning.
Because she goes back to New Mexico.
Oh yeah,
So-
in the beginning, and it's like 4 years later. Like she's been at this for 4 years, and finally she hears something.
Yeah, but 4 years, but she only has 3 months left. So she gets there and she's like, I don't want to take anything in the ship. They told me not to. And they're like, well, you don't get to fucking go. And then, so she gets in there and she's like, there shouldn't be a seat. And they're like, there has to be a seat. And then immediately she gets out of the seat, and the seat like goes up and like into the top, like that, like they break off the seat. The aliens do, I guess. And they're like, you don't fucking need a seat. We told you no seat.
I wish there was a scene where it showed like the seat being sucked up and like destroyed, because I think that would have been more powerful in showing like the aliens know what they're doing. Because she manually gets herself out of the seat, right? To go get the compass.
Yeah.
It would have been cool then, like the seat like gets and like destroyed, and it's like, oh, if she stayed in that seat, she would have died. I thought that would have been cool if it was shown that way.
So then she looks out her window, and also Fitchner, playing the blind guy, has a critical role where his blindness and super hearing, he's like, no, I hear her, because the guy's about to push the abort button. Which I wonder if that would have even worked. Like, were they even in control of it anymore? Or that the aliens sort of taken over? But I guess she needed to drop in. And then the acting in the part where she's like, a celestial body Poetry. They should have sent a poet. It was real bad. Like there had to be a better take than that.
I don't think it was her acting. I think it was the line, like the
Poetry.
writing. Okay, maybe it was her acting. I mean, I get what they were going for, and I think in the moment it was pretty powerful. Here's what I don't understand: why did she have to go through so many goddamn wormholes? She's like, "Whoa, they sent me this wormhole." It's like the fucking fucking highway exits. It's like just send her through the wormhole and just poop her out on the beach.
Have you ever created a wormhole?
No,
Don't tell other people how to create wormholes.
fine.
Okay. Do you think that McConaughey's like, man, she got to go through these wormholes. That's why he signed up for Interstellar. He was like, I want to fucking do that.
Actually, the comparison to what happens in Interstellar and these, I was like, why is Matthew McConaughey in so many of these goddamn movies?
And Matt Damon too.
And also, like the whole thing, like I thought they were actually going to pull in Interstellar when he's like, if you go through there, it'll be 4 years for you, but 50 years here on Earth. Are you willing to throw away your life? And she was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, fuck, okay, fine. Let's.
Are you gonna bang me when I'm 50 years older than this? That's what I need to know.
But what's crazy is that it's like, I guess because in her mind I don't get it. So I guess 18 seconds. No, sorry. How many seconds passed on Earth?
Just very few, but it was like 18 minutes.
No, it was.
Oh, they said it was like a second. She just fell through and it malfunctioned, right?
So it was like a second. Oh no, but they said that she went out of communication for a second. That's what they said. She went out of communication for a second. But then she's like, I had this whole conversation. It was like 18 hours or something.
It wasn't
then,
it was 18 minutes of static. No, 18 hours, you're right. It was 18 hours, but it was only like a second to them.
Right. Right. But didn't they say that the wherever she was going, less time would have been spent than on past Earth? But it looked like it was reverse of that. It looked like more time went over there than it did here.
No, yeah. That's because they're powerful aliens. So she meets her dad, but it's not really her dad. It's an alien. And she's like, you're not real. He's like, that's my scientist. And then he's like, you contacted us. We were just listening. We didn't build this wormhole. We don't know who did, which is kind of a like God built it type thing. The movie does a thing that like happened in the 90s more than now, where like it was more, I don't know, more down the middle, where it could be like, oh, religious or science, right? Where today it would just be kind of more science based.
Kind of like the way Interstellar did it.
I mean, it didn't even really touch that debate at all. And he's like, you have your mom's hands.
Your mom
Your mom hands.
There's a difference between you have your mom's hands and you have mom hands.
It looks like you like clean up a lot of messes. And then he's like, the only thing that makes emptiness bearable is each other, which is like, oh, so you want her to get back to McConaughey. I see. And then she goes home, and like, this is where I was like, all right, well, what's going to happen now? It's just this whole public inquiry, which I'm like, what is the point of this? What is this going to, like, she's not going to jail. You guys decided to spend the money at the White House. What are we solving here?
I'm also confused on how everyone in the U.S. knows about this.
It got leaked, purposefully or not, but it got leaked before she even went.
I guess. Because McConaughey knew because he showed up, and then Kent knew because he showed up, but then...
How did Kent get there, do you feel like? Because his dog wasn't with him.
McConaughey brought him.
Brought him? Okay, That makes sense. And then Woods decides to resign his post so he can head the public inquiry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just so he can be an asshole. And I was just like, I don't know. I mean, that is probably the part I liked the least, just because I was like confused about what the point of it was. Like, what if she denied that it all happened? I don't know what happens from this. I mean, it's like a lot of the government though. Like, what are they trying to do there? Are they actually accomplishing anything? Who knows?
The world may never know.
And then they go outside, and she basically has like religious fans now. Like all those people that are waiting on her are like Christians who are like, that's my girl.
Right.
And then Matthew McConaughey defends her because, of course, he has to because he is
course.
getting some tonight. And he's
Yes.
like, I believe her. What is he going to
I
say? She
believe
is a
her.
lying whore.
Now, the part I didn't like about the end of the movie comes about right here, where Angela Bassett and James Woods has a talk about the footage, and she's like, "I need to talk to you about the footage." And he goes, "Yeah, that's static. All there was static." First of all, I got so pissed at that, David. The aliens originally communicated them through a message in static,
Right.
the Hitler imagery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not gonna take a second look at this. They're just gonna be like, static. Oh, bunch of shit, bunch of static. They're gonna be like, oh, maybe there's a message in here. But then they didn't go that route. To top it, he's like, yeah, she was only gone for a second and there was static. And then Angela Bassett's like, well, if she was only gone for a second, how are there 18 hours of static? And he's like, that is interesting, isn't it? So my question to you is, do you think they ever told her?
No, and I think the money they gave her was sort of to buy her off because they were like, we just need this to go away. And like so we're just, it was either to buy her off or because they believed in her and they were going to let her keep going. I don't know. Because Woods seemed to have like a specific reason for being the asshole he was. So I don't know. And I don't know what that was. But, it seemed like he was trying to like prevent people from believing this for some reason, which is funny because he was like, I don't know. He seemed pro-faith too. So I don't get what he was doing.
He was just trying to be an asshole the entire time, just switching sides. He's like, "What's the most assholish side that I could take?" I didn't like the part where they revealed to the audience that there was 18 hours of footage. I kind of liked how, even for us, maybe it was like, "Oh, was it in her head? Was it kind of crazy?" But now it's like gives you a definite answer, like, "Oh no, she definitely saw aliens," but then she herself has to just go off on the faith that she did.
Yeah, but I mean, we know she definitely saw it. And so I don't know. I think are we supposed to believe that it was not real because it happened to her? Or maybe it happened in her head. So I don't know.
Yeah, they said hallucination. It's kind of crazy. But the part where I just wish they omitted was the 18 hours of static footage.
I actually liked that reveal, but I didn't feel like they did enough with it. So like,
Okay, that's fair too.
like I think I mean, like a lot of things in this, I think the ideas were good. It was like the way it was handled, and overall, it turns into like a kind of like a 50-50 movie, but like that I enjoyed, right? And like I think there are movies that are like have a good idea and are not well done, and it makes them bad. But this is like a movie that was like had really good ideas. The execution wasn't quite there in certain parts for me, but still overall, like I enjoyed.
Yeah, I respect. I really liked it. I liked it a whole bunch, much better than Apollo 13.
I don't know. I liked Apollo 13 a little bit better, especially like just the ending. I don't know. I didn't tear up in this one, and
Oh,
you
I
know
did.
me.
I did.
Did you? At
I
what
did.
point?
When she was on the beach with her dad, and she looked up, and then all the other beings were being like sucked into the wormhole, and he was like, "We're not alone." And then she's like, "That's my answer." I don't know. It was like I thought it was emotional.
I guess I can see that. So I read that Gillian Anderson and Uma Thurman were considered for Ellie, and then Rafe Fiennes was considered for Palmer Joss, which he would have been good at.
He
But
would also been good for Drumlin.
yeah, but he's got that British about him that I don't know. I mean, yeah, obviously would have been good. Apparently Jack Nicholson turned down a role. And yeah, that's really all I have.
I do have to say that, earlier I said that I think Jenna Malone should get more recognition than she has been, or just be put in more things because she's very talented. I just read that she's actually going to be in Zack Snyder's new thing, Rebel Moon. So
which is like a Star Wars thing.
esque sort of thing, and I think it's hyped up pretty big. So I take it back. I guess she's going to be in that. It's like the discount Dune. So
Also, at the end of the movie, it says for Carl, which was for Carl Sagan, who
yeah.
wrote the book that is based on famous astronomer.
I always get Carl
scientist.
Sagan mixed up with the comedian.
Who?
Carl something, I think, right?
No, wait. Are you thinking of the guy from Full House?
Bob Saget?
Is that what you're thinking of?
No, I'm not thinking of Bob Saget.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of I Finally Watched. This is David.
Yeah, this is Alon, and we finally
watched
watched